He spent years studying how murder investigations work. Then one of the biggest murder investigations in the country was built around him. 4 students, 1 house, no forced entry, no witness who could name the killer. Exhibit A, the house. 1122 King Road, a 3-story off-campus rental in Moscow, Idaho, home to 5 University of Idaho students. Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogan were 21, best friends since 6th grade. Kaylee was a senior about to graduate, with a marketing job already lined up in Austin and a backpacking trip through Europe planned first. Madison was studying marketing too, with plans to move to Boise after graduation. The day before they died, the 2 of them sat on the porch taking pictures, spending time together before Kaylee left town. Zanya Kernodle was 20, dating Ethan Chapin, also 20. Ethan wasn't a resident of the house. He was staying over that night the way he often did. On the night of November 12th, Kaylee and Madison went out to a sports bar downtown, then grabbed food from a food truck nearby, chatting with strangers for close to 10 minutes before heading home. Ethan and Zanya spent their evening at a fraternity formal. 2 other roommates were out that night too. By around 1:45 a.m., everyone was back at the house. By 4 a.m., the house had gone quiet, except for Zanya, who placed a food delivery order around that time. It's one of the last confirmed movements before everything changed. Exhibit B, the man with the mask. Sometime in the early morning hours, one of the 2 surviving roommates woke up. She would later tell investigators she opened her door and saw a man she didn't recognize, dressed in black, a mask covering the lower half of his face, walking toward the sliding glass door at the back of the house. She described him as at least 5'10", athletic but not heavily built, with bushy eyebrows. She didn't call 911. Investigators later suggested she may have froze, a common response to an extreme threat. Around 11:58 a.m., one of the surviving roommates called 911, saying that something had happened in the house and they didn't know what. That one of their roommates appeared to be passed out and wasn't waking up. Police arrived and found 4 bodies: Kaylee Gonzalez and Madison Mogan in an upstairs bedroom, Zanya Kernodle on the main floor. Ethan Chapin was found in the 2nd floor bedroom he had been staying in that night. The coroner would later confirm several victims were likely asleep when the attack began, and that some had defense wounds, meaning at least one of them woke up in time to know what was happening to them. No forced entry. Only a leather knife sheath was left behind near one of the victims. It would become the most important piece of physical evidence in the investigation. The killer had disappeared in the dark. Detectives had no murder weapon, no eyewitness who could identify him, and no suspect. Exhibit C, the trail. For weeks, Moscow police, Idaho State Police, and the FBI worked the case without a named suspect. But 3 separate trails were already converging on one man, long before any DNA match confirmed it. A white 2015 Hyundai Elantra had been pulled over months earlier in a routine traffic stop near Moscow, giving police a name attached to the vehicle: Bryan Kohberger, a criminology PhD student at Washington State University, just 8 miles from the crime scene. Surveillance footage showed a matching Elantra making repeated passes near the King Road house before the attack, minutes before the killings, before leaving the area moments later. The second was his phone. According to investigators, cell phone records placed Kohberger's phone in the area of the King Road neighborhood at least a dozen times in the months before the murders, usually late at night or in the early morning. On that night, investigators alleged the phone was inactive during the approximate time of the killings before reconnecting to the network later that morning. The third was a knife sheath and the DNA on it. Investigators first ran the profile through CODIS, the FBI's National Criminal Database, and got no match, since the DNA belonged to no one with a prior arrest or conviction on file. Investigators turned to investigative genetic genealogy, using it to identify potential relatives through publicly available genealogy data. The process traced a partial match to a family member in Pennsylvania. On December 27, 2022, investigators recovered garbage from the Pennsylvania home of Bryan Kohberger's parents. Lab results showed a high probability that the DNA on the trash belonged to the father of the man whose profile was on the sheath. A direct comparison later found the DNA was over 5 octillion times more likely to belong to Bryan Kohberger than to an unrelated person. Exhibit D, the arrest. December 30th, 2022. Pennsylvania State Police arrested Bryan Kohberger at his parents' home on a warrant for first-degree murder. He was extradited to Idaho and charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. What followed was 2.5 years of pretrial motions. His defense fought to keep the death penalty off the table, challenged the genetic genealogy method that had identified him, and pushed the trial date back repeatedly. Kohberger maintained his innocence the entire time. To this day, investigators have never publicly identified a confirmed motive. Even after everything they followed, the why has never been answered. A trial was scheduled for August 2025. It never happened. Exhibit E, the plea. In a stunning last-minute reversal, Kohberger agreed to plead guilty to all charges. It's the question every viewer of this case asks. Why plead guilty if you spent 2.5 years claiming innocence? By accepting the plea, Kohberger avoided the possibility of a death sentence. Prosecutors, in return, secured 4 murder convictions without forcing the victims' families through a lengthy, highly publicized trial. On July 2, 2025, in a Boise courtroom, Kohberger stated for the record he had killed all 4 students willfully and with premeditation. Judge Hippler questioned him under oath to confirm he understood exactly which rights he was giving up: the right to trial, the right to appeal, before accepting the plea on July 23rd and moving straight to sentencing the same day. The deal limited his ability to challenge the conviction in the future. Exhibit F, the reckoning. The sentencing hearing ran nearly 2 hours, almost entirely victim impact statements. One by one, family members described birthdays that would never happen, weddings that would never come, futures permanently stolen. Madison Mogen's stepfather remembered her as someone who always brought joy, someone taken from a world that was better with her in it. Lasagna Kernodle's mother wiped away tears through the proceeding. Kaylee Galzavez's father confronted Kohberger directly. Surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen spoke publicly for the first time, described her body still reliving the night over and over, saying her nervous system never got the message it was over. She called Kohberger, without using his name, a hollow vessel without remorse. Bethany Funke, the other surviving roommate, had her statement read by a friend, describing the guilt she carries for not calling 911 sooner, even knowing it wouldn't have changed the outcome. When Judge Hippler gave Kohberger a chance to speak, he said 3 words: "I respectfully decline." Judge Hippler didn't hold back, calling the killings an act of evil and telling the courtroom that Kohberger's grotesque acts had buried anything human left in him. He handed down 4 consecutive life sentences, 10 years for burglary, and close to $300,000 in financial penalties to the victims' families. For the families, for Moscow, Idaho, this was supposed to be the end. It wasn't. Exhibit G, the withdrawal. This part of the file is still being written. On July 27, 2026, almost exactly a year after his plea was accepted, Bryan Kohberger filed a petition for post-conviction relief in Ada County District Court, representing himself. He now claims he was pressured into entering a false guilty plea, citing threats, false promises, and information he says was wrong. This petition is a separate legal path, an attempt to reopen a case the state of Idaho and 4 grieving families believed was closed for good. Historically, courts don't often allow someone to withdraw a guilty plea once it's been accepted, especially one entered under sworn testimony on the record, with a judge who confirmed the defendant understood exactly what he was giving up. Legally, nothing has changed. The plea stands unless a judge rules otherwise. He wasn't just studying criminology, he was studying how people like him get caught. A PhD candidate, immersed in the science of it, how cell towers place a suspect, how a single trace of evidence can outlive every witness who's stopped talking. He knew all of it, and when it came time to use that knowledge to protect himself, none of it saved him. The sheath he left behind carried DNA that matched no criminal database. It should have been a dead end. Instead, investigators built his family tree branch by branch using forensic genealogy, the very kind of investigative science he spent years studying. Somewhere in all that knowledge, he never imagined the case study would become his own. 4 consecutive life sentences, a guilty plea, answered under oath. The man who devoted his life to learning how killers get caught became one more lesson in exactly how it happens. Every case he studied was someone else's ending, but he never planned on karma writing his. I'm Justin Luther, and these are the Karma Case Files. This episode reflects the case as of July 27, 2026. Bryan Kohberger's post-conviction petition was newly filed and remains unresolved. Future court rulings could change the status of this case.